now on, we will continue to study about the 5 types of clauses, the way to classify clauses. This clause especially deals with the 5th type of clause, which consists of a subject, a transitive verb, or a phrase of a transitive verb, an object, and an objective complement. In the 5th type of clause, the complement is applied to describe the object. We've dealt with the complement to describe the subject in the 2nd type of clause, and we call the complement a subjective complement. In the 5th type of clause, there is an object. The complement describes the condition of the object, so we can say the complement as the objective complement. As you can imagine precedingly, the way that the complement describes the object is exactly the same as the subjective complement describes the subject. The subjective complement could be an indication or a description. So we will start to study from the object complement as an indication, as it was the subjective complement as an indication. The speaker applies an indication to define the subject or a description to delineate the subject to practice the role of the subjective complement in the 2nd type of clause. This is a review for the subjective complement. In the same context, the speaker applies an indication to define the object or a description, to delineate the object to practice the role of the objective complement in the 5th type of clause. There is an example. I call you a prince. In this clause, the objective complement as an indication, more specifically, a phrase of a general noun, a prince, is applied as an objective complement. The phrase of the general noun, a prince, defines the object as an indication. We can say that the way that the objective complement defines the object is a kind of a way of description for the object. This clause is an example of the integration between the 4th type and the 5th type when the objective complement is an indication. Because we can say that the object, the listeners, can be the indirect object to receive the direct object, which is an indication, which is a phrase. The indirect object receives the definition of the transitive verb call and the direct object of prince, both. So we can say that this clause can be analyzed into the 1st type of clause, but according to the relationship between the object and the indirect the object and the objective complement to define the object, we can analyze this clause into the fifth type of clause. According to the definition of the transitive verb call, the speaker indicates an object as an objective complement to identify the object. With the perspective that the indirect object gets the definition of the transitive verb and the direct object that is equivalent to the indirect object. Equivalent means the listener is a prince is a listener. The direct object as the objective complement defines the indirect object. The speaker says the course that the speaker as the subject conveys the action indicated by the transitive verb call to the only listener who participates in the conversation in the clause. The speaker defines the object you, a listener, with the phrase of a noun of praise as one of the indications to practice the role of the objective complement. The listeners of a clause that an indication or a description derived from a verb is applied as an objective complement can get information about a point in time with the form of the objective complement. From now on, we will study about the derivatives of a verb to reveal the point in time when the experience, condition, or action happens with the form. A derivative of a verb reveals the information about the time of actualization. Let's see one by one. There are two big categories to classify every word. The first one is an indication. The second one is a description. The first category is an indication, and there is a noun. And there are two subcategories, an adjective, an adverb, and an adverb. Let's see from the first column. In the first column, a point in time, same as the time when the definition of the verb happens, is indicated by a root infinitive and described by a root infinitive. The root infinitive as an indication is applied in the combination of the preposition to and the root infinitive, which is called a to infinitive. We can say that the object of the preposition to in the to infinitive is identified as the root infinitive as an indication. In the combination of the preposition to and the object of the preposition to, which is a root infinitive, can be applied as a description. First one is with the trait as an adjective. The second one is with a trait as an adverb. In the fifth type of clause, the root infinitive with the trait as an adjective is applied, and with the causative verb have, make, and let. The objective complement has the form of a root infinitive in the fifth type of clause. When it comes to the to infinitive, the definition of the preposition to is considered a point in time later than the point in the time when the definition of the verb happens. So this tells us about a clause with a verb, and in the clause there is a to infinitive. The definition of the verb actualizes ahead of the definition of the preposition to actualizes, because the definition of the preposition to is about a purpose to be actualized later than the moment of the verb, of the actualization of the verb. In the third column, a point in time when an experience is complete later than the time when the definition of the verb happens is introduced. As an indication, a to infinitive to have and a past participle is applied. This tells us that the subject in the clause has a purpose to be completed later than the moment when the definition of the verb reveals, when the tense of the clause reveals. The combination of the to infinitive to have and a past participle is also applied with a trait as an adjective and an adverb. A period to include in the first column, a period to include the point in time when the definition of the verb happens. This is introduced. In this explanation, we can emphasize, we can give an accent on the expression a period. The form of a gerund and a present participle, which have the same form, the form of a verb and the suffix ing, reveal the information that the definition of the verb ahead of the suffix ing lasts for a period. Then the form of the verb and the suffix, the combination of a verb and the suffix ing is applied as an indication or a description, When the form of the combination is applied as an indication, it is called with the term a gerund. When it is applied as a description, it is called with the term a present participle. There is the fifth column, a point in time earlier than the point in time when the definition of the verb happens. This tells us that this tells us that completion. This tells us completion. When the definition of the verb actualizes, the definition of the past participle, and a gerund having in a past participle reveal that the verb, which is the original form of the past participle, actualized already ahead of the definition of the verb. According to this chart, we will study more about the fifth type of clause.